Chuck Comeau from the Simple Plan Band and the Simple Plan movie. I think we have an Oscar on the way.
Well, thank you. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, if not for you, maybe for your dad, because he does a great job in the show.
I've heard a lot of people saying that my dad stole the show. So he was actually sitting right in this chair where I am right now. I'm in his house. I'm back in my parents' house doing the interview. So it's perfectly fitting that you mentioned that and that we're here talking about the movie because this house and this basement particularly was instrumental in our history. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was definitely the star of the show, and as were the parents that we saw along the way. So it was,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because like it all starts with family. I mean, everybody's sort of life or however you discover your passion, it's often linked to your families and for us like it wasn't really, I mean, we were so lucky that we had supportive parents. Like we don't really fit the bill sometimes of like it's like, this movie, it's not Motley Crue the Dirt. It's like it's a different beast. It's a different thing. It's not our story. Like our story is a bit different and we wanted to be really honest and real and genuine with it and really tell it like it is and this band we all met in high school. We literally met when we were 13 years old. So we were living at our parents' house and we and when we were practicing it was like, well, we couldn't afford to rent a rehearsal space and we didn't really have the permission to go downtown in those like places where bands would rehearse. So we did it in our basement, and that's where it all started. That's where like we had the freedom to explore, being like music and being a band, and and at first we were terrible because literally this is how the band started. So we were sitting in class. Pierre and myself were in the back of our French class because we were going to French school, it being in Montreal. And we had this other friend, and the French teacher came up to us and said, you three should be in a band. I don't know why he said that. I didn't play any instrument. Pierre played guitar. The other guy, JS, played bass. So it was like, all right, well, I guess that makes me the drummer. And then I begged my parents for weeks and weeks, please, I want to play in a band. I have two friends. One of them plays guitar. The other guy plays bass. I'm going to be the drummer. And I think that it was a bit like, all right, fine. After weeks and weeks of asking, because it was a drum's pretty loud, and when you bring the drums inside a house, it's gonna be disturbing. So I think it's gonna be like it's gonna take over the entire house. But finally, they said yes. They relented. I got the drums, and the next day, the band showed up, and we started writing music. And for whatever reason, we didn't we didn't play covers. We decided that probably because it was too difficult to learn the covers, so we started making our own music, and our parents were supportive and they would drive us to our shows because we started playing shows pretty quickly and we were playing like we didn't have a car or a license. We were 14, 15 years old. So they would drive us. We would put the bass drum and the amps in the car and they would bring us to the show. And it was, that's how it all began. And they were instrumental. Like if we didn't have that basement, probably we're not here today, and if they didn't drive us to the show, we're not here. So yeah, they played a big role.
yeah. So not only are you the drummer in the band, but also the creative force of the band. And what the movie does show is that you're the one that sort of starts off the song and then brings it to the rest of the band, and then the song grows from there. And I guess a lot of people don't realize that quite often the drummer is the driving force in a band. The band follow the drummer, don't they? Invariably in a
Right.
band.
Well, I think with this band, the way that we operate is that it's in terms of the creativity, it's really Pierre, the singer, and myself. So that's really how it works. I usually come up with an idea or concept, like a title, a word that I find interesting. Like I'll be reading the paper, or I'll read a book, or I'll watch a movie, or even like I'll have a conversation with someone and they say something. And I'm like for example, like I remember like I think it was somebody somewhere said like, "Oh yeah, welcome to my life," and I'm like, little light bulb comes up. Welcome to my life. That's a song title. I write it down, and then I bring it to Pierre, and he is the musical sort of talent in the band, like the sort of the genius songwriter that will take that and will find a way to sing it that is original and interesting. And then when you hear it, you're like, oh wow, that's it. It was little words, and then all of a sudden it's a song. And then we work on it together, and we shape the lyrics and shape the melodies, and then it becomes a Simple Plan song. So it's been a really great partnership, and each guy has his own role, and in the band, I think because I wasn't the most talented musician, I wasn't the best drummer. There's so many better drummers out there, but there's one thing that I felt like I could bring to the table, and that was like the ambition, the drive, the desire to make it, and they're being relentless, being like not taking no for an answer, and kind of thinking outside the box, and being, kind of obsessive about it because I wanted it so badly. I think more than anybody I've ever met. Like I just there was no other backup plan. This is what I wanted to do. So I think that even back then, when I was 13, that's what I was bringing to the table, and that role has really hasn't changed that much. Even with the band today, like that's still my my sort of duty, or my position in the band is like I push. I push everybody to maybe do a bit more than they want to, and just to keep to kind of always never forget, where we came from and how badly we wanted to do this. That's sort of my place to kind of be that person in the band, right? And yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of how that's what I bring.
Yeah, you wanted it so bad, and then Australia was the first place to give it to you because Addicted was a hit in Australia before Perfect was a hit in Canada.
It was interesting in Australia. Like it didn't quite work right away. Like it's like we came here the first time, and I remember we played the M1 festival. I don't think it exists anymore at all, but no one knew us, and we went to every radio station, and nobody played it. It took a while, but then when it started to happen, it was crazy how amazing it felt, and it was massive. And we played back in 2005. We played the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne, and it's funny because when we were going down the archives, I found like a part of like some footage of us backstage as we're about to go play that show, and we're literally saying like on camera, and it's such a bummer that we didn't use it for the doco, but we say like, hey, we're about to go play the biggest show of our entire career right here tonight in Rod Laver Arena. Like this is the biggest shows we ever played. So Australia was ahead of the curve and really embraced Simple Plan, and it's been one of the best places for us to play in the entire world, and we're so grateful for all the support we've had.
Yeah, and when you see the kids in the crowd, everybody, you'll see multiple images of the Sydney Harbour Bridge along the way, and we even have the token koala bear towards the end.
We did, yeah. They came. So the team that filmed the documentary came on tour with us, and it was pretty much last year, 2024. And they came to Brazil, they came to the UK, they came to Canada and Australia, and the US, but they also came to this amazing tour that we had last year in Australia, the headline tour. We played some of the biggest venues we had played in years in Australia, and it was unreal. Like we filmed in Melbourne and Adelaide and Sydney, and it was really cool because we really wanted to showcase how global the band is. And ever since we started, it was always important for us to go and play all over the world. Like I think we're currently at like 71 or 72 countries that we've performed in, and we're always adding to that list. But Australia it's been a special place. We love it there, and we've been embraced by the people there. And it was important that in the documentary we would showcase that. And the images are amazing. Like we played John Cain Arena in Melbourne, and it looks massive. And we played Horton in Sydney, and we did film some interview right in front of the Opera House. And I did bring my son to, in Queensland, to like a koala place. Yes, so yeah, we did that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, last time you were down here just a few months ago with the Offspring, playing at Rod Laver Arena again, and right next door on the other side of the wall, ZZ Top and George Thorogood were playing, and
That's
both
right.
shows ended at the same time, and 20,000 people were coming out the doors right at
Oh,
that same time.
yeah, that must have been sorry for the traffic. But yeah, that was an amazing show. We loved it. Was so cool to play with the Offspring like that. We did 2 nights at Rod Laver, which is like insane, ridiculous. And to play like and when you see in the documentary we have Dexter and like Noodles from the Offspring that are there. And the reason why we wanted to have them is because, well, first of all, they're one of the biggest pop punk band in the world. So it's always interesting to have their perspective on punk rock and the scene. But more importantly, in our personal story, they played a major role. They Session, which is a song on their first album, Ignition, is the first kind of punk rock song that we heard. It was um, in a snowboard movie that Pierre was watching at home. He brought it to me, he played for me. He's like, "You have to hear this song. You have to hear this band. It has this fast beat. It's energetic. It's so different than anything I've heard before." And it set us on a path. Like it literally shaped the DNA of our band when we heard it, and we told them that. And it's funny because fast forward 30 years later, and here we are touring with the Offspring in Australia and Japan and the US and Canada, and we're like friends with them now, and they're like our peers. And but in our minds they're still like the legends that inspired us, so it's kind of surreal, and to have them in the documentary is so cool.
I love the schoolboy sexual pun innuendo of each album title, going back to the start, no pads, no helmets, just balls. And what I particularly liked about that title was you guys going on the Jay Leno show and Jay Leno having to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, we made a lot of DJs and radio show hosts and talk show hosts say a lot of funny things, Like we got away with saying I'm a dick on radios everywhere around the world, and we had them say, get your heart on, and we had that, so harder than it looks. And yeah, we always had fun with that. We just felt like it's kind of like the band. We always took our music very seriously, but we never took ourselves very seriously, and we wanted to make people kind of smile and laugh a little bit. So, yep, that was. But no pads, no helmet, just balls. That was just rugby term, man. That's what we were told.
Does
You
it
know.
does it have the same innuendo in French?
No, no, it doesn't work as well in French.
Yeah. There's a particular conversation that goes on in the movie about being a punk band versus being a pop band. And do we stop being a punk band? Do we become more of a pop band? You're on the Vans Warped, you went on to the Avril Lavigne tour, you went back to the Vans Warped. And I think there was a term used at one point, GGBB, good guys, bad band. How much discussion was there about the direction that you were going to take musically?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a big tension between those two sides of the band. Not necessarily in the sense that some people wanted to be pop and some people wanted to be punk in the band itself. What I mean is that we were constantly talking about how we wanted people to perceive the band and how we wanted the kind of identity that we wanted to have. And I think that in our minds, we came from the punk rock world. We came from playing with bands like Bad Religion and Good Riddance and Lagwagon, like true like punk rock bands. And but when it came to Simple Plan, we we had done that punk rock style for 6, 7 years, and we were a little tired of always playing as fast as we could and writing songs about politics and all that. It was great. We loved it with the first band, but now we want to try something different. And we started writing these songs that were really melodic, because I think that's our sensibility. Like when we write music, when Pierre writes melodies, it comes out really melodic. It comes out like, that's what we love. We grew up on the Beach Boys and, the Beatles and everything. So that's kind of how we write. But then we added the drums, the fast drums and the distortion, and it had that sort of, it was truly pop punk, you know. But the record that we made, the first record, it's it's when you lead off with a song called "I'm Just a Kid," it's not going to be the most punk rock thing in the world, And I think that in our minds, we made a pop punk record, but when people heard it, and their reaction was a little more like, oh man, like this is way too pop. And at the time, in the early 2000s, it's very different than what it is now. Like now I feel like people have evolved so much. This whole like sellout thing is not really a factor anymore. Nobody really talks about it anymore the way that they did back then. Um, People are allowed to love a lot more different styles of music. But back in when we started in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a wall between the pop world and the punk rock world. And it was betrayal if you tried to go back and forth. But for us, I don't know. We thought we could have one foot in the pop world and one foot in the more punk world, and it definitely caused a backlash, a big one. A lot of people were angry about it. Every time that people would come up to me, they would be saying like, "Hey, like you're in Simple Plan, right?" And I was like, I didn't had no idea what to expect. It was either like, oh my God, I love you guys, or like, wow, you guys are terrible, you're awful, you suck. And I didn't know what was gonna happen. So I think we got a little bit of PTSD from all of that. I think that it was a bit, there's some scars that are left from that were, but the one thing that it did for our band is that it made us want to prove people wrong. It gave us a chip on our shoulder. It made us want to prove to people that we belong, that we were indeed like a real, you know, like pop punk band, that we understood the scene, the culture, that we were not a fraud, that we were like, that we were the real deal, that we really liked that kind of music, that it was genuine. It wasn't like a manufactured thing. It wasn't us trying to be something we were not. So we just kept going back to Warp Tour, kept playing harder, faster, kept wanting to put on the best show that we could to prove to people that we deserve to be there. And I think it made us a better band. I think it traumatized us a little bit, but it made us a better band.
I love the early parts of the band, these fresh faced kids, forming a band, the youthful look, the teenage look. And then towards the end, children everywhere. So you've gone from this punk band of teenage kids at the beginning to family men towards the end. How many children are there within this band now? There were kids everywhere towards the end.
That's funny. Yes. Okay. So Jeff has three, Pierre has two, and me and Sebastian have one each. So there are seven kids in the band, or we have seven kids collectively, which is not that crazy, but it's quite a significant amount. So but yeah, like life changes, right? Like life, like you start somewhere, and if you would have told me that in 2002 that one day there's gonna be seven kids bouncing around the tour bus and in the studio, and we're gonna be playing shows at Disney and bring our families along, and like I would have been like, you're out of your mind, there's no chance. And but that's the beauty of life. Like you kind of evolve, and the good thing is that everybody's on the same page. There's not like one or two guys in the band that have no kids. Like we all in the same position, we all understand. I think it has shaped how we look at the band in a bit of a different way, and so it makes us want to be a bit more mindful of not being gone for like 6 months in a row because we want to see our kids. We don't want to be that kind of parent that is not there. That's number one. But number two, I think it was actually really beneficial for the band because it made us a lot more motivated to keep to make sure that the band would stay relevant, because we didn't want our kids to be like, oh yeah, my dad, like, he used to be in a band that was, they used to be popular, they used to be like, like pretty good. And it's like, no, we want them to be there for like our biggest shows, and we want them to see that the band is still alive and kicking, and like that you can still do great things even if you get older. So it became like a real driving force of why we wanted to make this documentary, why we want to keep touring, why we want to keep putting out records, because we want to show them like, hey, like, look, we're still here, we're still doing this, and we want you to be proud of what we accomplish. And also, it's really cool to be in a band because you now what we're realizing is that it can benefit your family in the sense of like, for example, for myself, like I brought my son to Australia. I brought my son to Japan a few months ago. He came to Japan again in 2022. Like, we're seeing the world together. They were there when we played Madison Square Garden like a month ago. They get to meet all kinds of people that they would never meet if it wasn't for the band. They get to travel, experience all these amazing things that we're so lucky that we have. So I think we decided that we're going to make the band work for our families, and we're going to make it part of who we are now as a band. And it's been really cool.
The irony of what you've just said there is that you've just given an explanation about how everything changes. The opening song on the soundtrack album, the new song for this band, is called Nothing Changes.
That's right. But I'll tell you, and it still makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Because in lots of ways, like, we have changed and we have evolved. We're not exactly the same kids that we were when we were like starting the band. We were 20, 21, and the band was everything. However, everything changed, but in lots of ways, nothing's changed at all. And what I mean by that is that we're still on stage. We still love what we do. We still have so much passion. We still have dreams that we want to achieve. We still have like an ambition of like to see how far we can take this thing, to see how long it can last. We're still trying to write the best Simple Plan song that we can every single time. Like with this new one, we feel like like we're getting closer every time. We're only 3 minutes away from writing our best song, and we still have that drive and desire to attempt to do that. We're still traveling the world. We're still together. The band is still together. It's still all like it's still like the original band members there. And it's still based on the friendship that we started out uh, all these years ago, and when we met in high school and we started the band. That's still the key component of why this still works. So yes, lots of things have changed, but also nothing's changed at all. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The movie is Simple Plan, The Kids in the Crowd. I really hope you do win the Best Supporting Actor Oscar, because your dad's going to get the Best Actor role.
There you go. I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much. That would be great. I hope so too.
Chuck, great to see you. I look forward to another ping pong match when you come back to Australia.
I would love that. Absolutely. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us at Noise 11.
Hey, thank you, mate. Appreciate it.